Costco's chief executive is warning that grocery bills will bite even harder in 2025, and the pain may be felt by every household. Craig Jelinek reminds members that while overall inflation measures seem to be easing, food inflation tells a different story. Shoppers already notice that eggs, milk, and produce cost more today than they did a year ago, and those increases are likely only the beginning. He explains that several big forces are converging: poor farm yields, incoming import duties, and lingering cost pressures that will push grocery prices higher, even as other parts of the economy cool off. A key factor behind the surge in food costs is the decline in U.S. crop production. Last season's droughts in the Midwest slashed corn and soybean harvests, and unexpected frosts in southern fruit-growing regions damaged orange, strawberry, and blueberry crops. When these staples become scarce, their prices at the farm level rise, and grocery chains must pass those increases on to consumers. Jelinek emphasizes that when corn prices spike, the ripple effect spreads into meat and dairy, since animal feed becomes more expensive, and those costs travel all the way to the meat counter and the dairy aisle. Beyond domestic production challenges, looming import tariffs threaten to add fresh pinch to wallets. Jelinek points out that roughly half of Costco's packaged goods and a sizable portion of its fresh items are sourced from overseas. As new duties on imported foods and ingredients kick in early next year, the base cost of these items will jump by double-digit percentages. For any retailer committed to maintaining low prices, absorbing that kind of increase is nearly impossible. Instead, shelf tags will have to reflect higher input costs, meaning shoppers will pay more for goods they previously bought at lower prices. Food inflation is already running at levels Americans haven't seen in years. Over the past 4 years, Costco has seen an average grocery price rise of more than 30%. In one striking example, egg prices leapt by over 15% in a single month late last year, when cold storage shortages coincided with high demand. A dozen-count carton that once cost under $1 now routinely sells for more than $1.60. For consumers who rely on eggs as a protein and breakfast staple, that increase feels immediate and painful, and it underscores the volatility of today's food markets. Dairy products are following a similar trend. High feed costs for dairy cows and lower milk yields have driven butter and cheese prices to levels far above what they were before the pandemic. Costco's private label dairy offerings alone have seen price increases exceeding 25% since 2020. Families that once stocked up on gallon jugs of milk in bulk now find themselves paying much higher prices for basic staples like fluid milk and cream cheese. Jelinek admits that he understands the frustration. When everyday items cost more, it tightens household budgets and forces tough choices at mealtime. Packaged and processed foods won't be immune to these pressures. Cereal, canned goods, and ready-to-eat meals face sudden swings tied to global commodity markets. The price of oats and wheat has climbed on supply chain strains and geopolitical tensions, while vegetable oil costs have risen due to higher energy prices in processing mills. Jelinek forecasts that packaged grocery prices could climb by an additional 3 to 5% in 2025, adding on top of prices that are already significantly elevated. For families who depend on canned beans or boxed pasta to stretch their budgets, even small percentage increases can add up quickly. These cost pressures have real human consequences. A recent survey showed that nearly 1 in 3 U.S. households earning under $60,000 a year cannot reliably afford a balanced diet. Many families are trading fresh fruits and vegetables for cheaper frozen alternatives, which now outsell fresh produce in some regions. Others are turning to plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, and tofu to fill out their meals. Jelinek stresses that these shifts are not merely about preference, but about necessity. Shoppers are forced to choose ingredients that stretch their dollars, even if they would rather buy fresh, whole foods. Snack foods have not escaped the upward trend either. Chips, cookies, and frozen pizzas cost nearly double what they did in 2021, leading many members to swap name-brand treats for lower-priced store-label options. Costco's shelves now feature more of its own label snack products, reflecting members' growing demand for value. Even seafood, once an accessible protein choice for many, has drifted into luxury territory. Salmon fillets and shrimp now carry price tags that effectively relegate them to occasional indulgences rather than weekly staples. Despite these difficulties, Jelinek insists that Costco will fight to hold its line on everyday low prices. The company is securing long-term supply contracts to lock in costs, expanding domestic sourcing where possible, and working closely with suppliers to uncover every efficiency. He acknowledges that while these efforts cannot fully offset the macroeconomic forces at play, they can soften the blow. "We're committed to doing everything in our power to mitigate these increases," he says, "but some external costs will be beyond our control." Costco's finance chief shares the cautionary tone. Although the retailer continues to see robust revenue growth, driven by high membership renewal rates and strong ancillary sales, there is a risk that ballooning grocery bills could curtail discretionary spending. When more of a household's income goes toward feeding their family, there is less left over for electronics, home goods, or travel. In Costco's model, which relies on a balance of grocery and non-grocery sales, a substantial shift toward food spending could alter the company's overall performance. Economists outside Costco echo the warning that modest grocery inflation days may be over. They point to the upcoming 25% tariff on many Chinese-made goods, which will raise costs on everything from kitchen tools to specialty ingredients. With nearly 40% of Costco's general merchandise imported, these duties will find their way into higher retail prices. Some estimates suggest that the combined effect of domestic crop shortfalls and import levies could add 2 full percentage points to U.S. inflation next year, well above targets set by the central bank. Jelinek also highlights an often overlooked issue: the health of the soil that grows our food. He refers to United Nations data showing that roughly 1/3 of global soils are degraded, a trend mirrored on many American farms. Nutrient-depleted fields yield less per acre, forcing farmers to rely on costly fertilizers and extensive irrigation. Those added production expenses build into wholesale prices, which eventually pass through to grocery tags. Without healthy soil, we cannot ensure a stable food supply, Jelinek warns. Addressing soil degradation requires long-term solutions. Jelinek calls for greater investment in regenerative agriculture practices, cover crops, reduce tillage, and sustainable land management to rebuild soil fertility. Without these measures, he cautions, America risks not just higher prices, but potential food shortages down the line. For policymakers, he urges targeted support for farmers adopting these practices, as well as funding for agricultural research to improve crop resilience. While some commentators remain hopeful that supply chains will realign and tariffs might be eased, Jelinek counsels shoppers to prepare for continued volatility. He recommends meal planning around sale items, bulk purchases of staples, and taking full advantage of Costco's membership benefits, gasoline discounts, pharmacy savings, and ancillary services that help offset rising grocery costs. He also encourages members to engage with local producers and farmers markets, where prices on some items may remain more stable. Finally, Jelinek appeals to lawmakers to consider immediate relief for vulnerable households. Expanded nutrition assistance programs, temporary tax credits tied to food purchases, and subsidies for sustainable farming initiatives could provide much-needed respite while long-term agricultural reforms take root. This is a challenge that spans both the private and public sectors, he says. We need coordinated action to ensure that all Americans can afford the food they need. As 2025 looms, Jelinek's message is clear. Grocery shoppers face tougher times ahead, shaped by climate unpredictability, shifting trade policies, and ecological pressures on farmland. For the average family, this means dedicating more of their budget to basic groceries. For Costco, it demands relentless focus on cost management and value delivery through strategic sourcing, strong supplier partnerships, and member-focused benefits. The company aims to navigate these turbulent waters and help its members do the same. Costco also sees opportunities to help communities directly. In select markets, the company plans to partner with food banks and charitable organizations to redistribute surplus inventory before it spoils. By redirecting near-expiration goods and seasonal overstock to those in need, Costco can both reduce waste and ease food insecurity. In addition, pilot programs for community-supported agriculture boxes, where members subscribe to receive weekly shares of locally grown produce, are under consideration. These initiatives not only provide fresher options at controlled prices, but also support regional farmers, keeping food miles short and bolstering local economies. Looking further ahead, Jelinek believes technological innovation will play an increasing role in stabilizing food costs. Investments in precision agriculture, using drones, sensors, and data analytics to optimize planting and harvesting, could help farmers produce more with fewer inputs, easing pressure on prices over time. On the retail side, expanded use of automated warehouses and smarter logistics networks may lower handling costs, savings that could be passed to members. While such advances won't solve immediate price hikes, they represent a path toward greater resilience. Ultimately, the message from Costco's leadership is one of realism tempered by action. Yes, grocery bills are set to rise, and some members will feel the strain deeply. Yet by combining careful planning, community engagement, and forward-looking investments, both shoppers and retailers can find ways to adapt. In a world of shifting policies and environmental challenges, flexibility and collaboration may prove as essential as ever in ensuring that families across America can continue to put healthy, affordable meals on the table.